Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your co-host, Joshua. And today, like many other days, we unravel stories of perseverance, we unravel stories of success, and we unravel stories of, innovations, of impact. And today we have our guest for you, a leader, in their field that delivers impact, valuable impact to individuals, to businesses, to companies, you name it. Ryan Esses is a globally recognized sales and leadership expert, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and the co-founder of Impact 11. He is a hyper-growth startup committee of thought leaders. He is a former Fortune 500 chief revenue officer. Ryan has spent his career in the trenches, leading high-performance teams and building client roster of category-leading brand. His new book just came out, Prepare for Impact, unpacks 30 simple steps to achieve ambitious sales goals, and then by following 9 tactics that answer the question of how leaders can show up for their teams, help them achieve their potential, and find fulfillment and work on life. And he's going to share all of that today with us and more. Ryan, thank you for coming on to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation, Joshua.
Fantastic, Ryan. I'm pretty excited to talk about a lot of stuff on here because I watched a lot of your keynotes and they are truly impactful. But before we really get into the thick of it, Ryan, I want to ask this. I always open this show, the episode, with this question. What is the story of Ryan Esses? What happened when you were a child? Anything early on in childhood? Some pivotal moments experienced in your life where you say, I'm going to get into this type of career. I'm going to get into, ambitious sales goals. I'm going to help companies. I'm going to be a keynote speaker. What were pivotal moments early on in your life that led you to preparing people for impact?
Yeah, I wish there was a more specific moment, but the truth is I was about to graduate
Mm-hmm.
from college and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But if I could trace one thread back
Uh-huh.
to the early part of my life, my origin that relates to what I'm doing now, it's probably that both of my parents were teachers. And my
Right.
mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad was a phys ed teacher and a coach. But I think the passion for learning and teaching got in me somehow. And so while my
Right.
classroom looks a little bit different, obviously the keynote speaking, the consulting work, a big part of that is education, and it's work that I'm
Mm-hmm.
passionate and feel called to do. So.
Yeah, and it's always about that. You mentioned, and it's a very, very big part of your message, human centered growth. That life, growth is people. People, life is people. And you say you're talking about education and being there, and it really reflects on how you value relationships. One of the things that you mentioned in your keynotes, the very first things that you mentioned is winning moments of truth, transactions to relationship, and making those, you know, winning those moments through valuable experience. And I think a lot of this speaks to how you see individuals not just as a number, so to speak. Talk to us a little bit about that and how it led that kind of vision. What led you to thinking that, okay, the approach of human centered growth is going to be a factor of leadership in the new economy?
Well, there are a couple of threads there
Mm-hmm.
to pull on, and so the first is this whole idea of education and investing in you, and I think
Right.
that's not a new idea, but it's an idea we write about in the book. I mean, it's never been more important. because the world is
Right.
changing so fast. So leaders are learners, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. And I was very, very fortunate at an early age to sort of get that idea or that notion specific to self development and investing in myself
Uh-huh.
installed in me early, and it really shaped my career and approach to work. But the second part you asked about this idea of winning these moments of truth, turning transactions into meaningful relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
such an interesting time in the world, with technology accelerating and artificial intelligence becoming more mainstream, and we're
Uh-huh.
automating so much. And I think there's a lot of discussion around which jobs are they going to replace, and what can machines do. And look, I'm fully invested
Yep.
into this. I mentioned to you, we launched a new website, and we included under the resource section Ryan
Yep.
Estes GPT. So it's my AI bot, and you literally can
Mm-hmm.
go to the website and go to Ryan Estes GPT, and you can ask AI Ryan anything about sales, leadership, personal growth, professional development, and the answers are spot on
Uh-huh.
and succinct, and the information's relevant. But what
Right.
AI Ryan and technology doesn't do is it doesn't do the thing you said, which you were sort of touching on this idea of empathy, right? How we relate to one
Yes.
another. And
Especially.
in a world that's so uncertain and changing so fast, the reason that change efforts fail isn't the strategy, or oftentimes it isn't the technology, but it's the people
Yes.
and the misalignment and the
Of course.
misunderstanding and the resistance to change, or the fear. And so how we connect and how we communicate, it's just mission critical
Mm-hmm.
to how we lead, to how we influence and shape culture, to how we organize teams to accomplish meaningful work, to how we support our clients in a sales or consulting capacity. And so we spend a lot of
Right.
time at that book, and at our core level as people, we all have a desire, I think, to be
Yes.
seen, to be
Yes.
heard,
Of
to be
course.
known, to be understood, to be
Of course.
valued for our contribution. And so the focus, the part where we do focus on relationships, it's really helping people understand that. And it's, some people could say, well, that's soft. And I don't think so. I actually think empathy and
Mm-hmm.
human connection and the way we relate, it's some of the most important things we'll do
Of course.
and not only in business but in our lives. And I
Yes.
think
Of course.
I'm not the only one that talks about this, but I think for a long time in my life, I was a little bit closed and protected, and I had a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism, and those
Mm-hmm.
things probably in some ways inhibited or prevented my relationships from going deeper. And so learning to
Right.
resolve that, or become more self-aware, or evolve my own emotional intelligence, has allowed me to, I think, be a better servant of others. So
And that is just a great way to put it, because Ryan, first off, I used to be a trader. I am a trader for different industries, but that also includes insurance trading. I taught salespeople in insurance, but this was way back, and the principles that they taught doesn't really quite go deep as much as you do, because they teach like, hey, you take your customers and your clients to a cafe, bring them to these are great, of course, right? You give them a nice experience, you treat them to a nice place and all that, but it doesn't go quite deep, because it has to go
it's
as
not
deep
enough.
when you
Yeah, it's not enough,
yeah.
honestly. Like, by the way, there's
Yes,
nothing wrong with
absolutely.
turning customers into friends and
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
that, but it's not enough. And part of the issue too is, customers today, whether you're selling insurance or medical devices or management consulting, like I do, customers buy value, man. And so,
precisely.
you
Mm-hmm,
you have to be in a position to be able to be obsessed about getting out from your customer. Like, your results as a
mm-hmm,
salesperson ultimately are founded on your ability to achieve results for your customer. And so the
mm-hmm,
idea of value based selling, and we spend a lot of time talking about in the first half of the book, how to be a
mm-hmm,
value creator for your customers. And I'm
mm-hmm.
not diminishing the importance of a relationship, but I will say, stand alone, it's not enough today.
It's not enough. It's not enough, definitely. And I love to, I want to highlight that because you also mentioned empathy. That's what I said. Like, it doesn't quite go deep as much as you do, because teaching empathy to sales, that's like what? That's like a new age kind of concept, right? No one really taught that back then. And I remember you, now you do mention value, because one of the things that you say on your keynote again is like, customers do not buy on price. They default to price in the absence of value. I love that you say that you break this down in your book, Prepare for Impact. And the title makes more sense now, because how are you going to make impact in these lives when it's just about, when it's just about, treating to a good place, but how do you impact them through valuable experience, impact them through value? And talk to us a little bit more about the books and the tactics that you talked about for leaders and their teams, and how do you reach potential when it comes. And first of all, why Prepare for Impact? Why that title?
Yeah, well, I think the book really. I wrote, so just a little background of the book. I wrote the book with my brother Chad. We co-authored
Right.
it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Chad, in addition to being a close friend, he's an extraordinary leader of a phenomenal organization. He runs the business of the Dallas Cowboys. So it was a great
Mm-hmm.
collaborative effort, and he was a
Wow.
great case study for the book. But the book really details our journey, and we both leverage sort of the first half of the book, these 30 steps to success, to build our sales careers. And
Right.
and the book unpacks that framework. And look, some of the steps are, they're not net new information. I mean, we put our perspective into it, but I think
Of course.
cumulatively the steps, while simple, if you're following them well, can lead to outside success. Well, Chad took this framework, these steps, and began using them when he got into leadership and management, to train
Wow.
salespeople, to build teams, to influence culture. And so we transition. The second half of the book then becomes really about leadership, and more
Right.
specifically, how to lead in a world, in a post-pandemic world that is changing so fast. So
So fast.
we talk about what human-centered leadership means, and we unpack the 9 tactics to becoming a human-centered leader. But you know, it's all about creating impact on others. I mean, as
That's true.
salespeople, I think, what Chad and I recognized was that if we could really understand our customers and help them make the very best business decision based on their unique needs and situation, we could help them solve a problem or accelerate an opportunity, that we could get obsessed
Mm-hmm.
about understanding them and their success, that
Right.
it wasn't about us. It was about helping somebody else. And quite frankly, leadership is the same.
Yes.
It's a different flavor of, helping other people
Yeah.
maximize their
Mm-hmm.
potential in pursuit
Mm-hmm.
of, shared objectives. And
Yeah.
so, when we thought about we thought about the title of the book for a long time, but my blog's been called Prepare for Impact, for
Oh,
a
cool.
decade now. And so we leverage that title because at the end of the day, I hope that's what the book
That's,
delivers, is a
mm-hmm.
whole lot of ideas and exercises and insights and stories that put people in a position to create more impact in their own lives and their
That's
own
true.
careers. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
we wrote the book.
And impact in the lives of others, of course, and impacting those directly that are under you, directly that you are managing, And again, one of the principles or one of the philosophies that you shared with us is like, I wish people knew that the future of growth is human, right? Like a meaningful fulfillment and harmony. And that is all dependent on us making those impactful connections. And Ryan, you mentioned that you co-wrote your book with your brother. You are also the co-founder, the founding partner of Impact 11. You guys have been instrumental in delivering what 500% increase in growth, 1,300% increase in shareholder value with 90% client retention rates. These are crazy numbers over the last 2 years, but your experience has spanned over 15 years. What are some difference that you have seen? Like we talk a little bit about this because the way they taught salespeople or principles of sales was so much more different. It was just very surface level. But now you're going much deeper and digging much deeper into the values of human values. What were the biggest difference and challenges that you noticed today to founding Impact 11 today?
Well, from a pure sales perspective, the job's getting much harder for a
Right,
variety of reasons.
right.
I think Salesforce released some statistics on this. Like 70% of people say the job has never been harder. And part of it
Wow.
is the speed at which business operates. We have to be on 24/7.
Yeah,
Customers have, real incredible expectations about sense of urgency, responsiveness, those kinds of
right.
things. The
Mm-hmm,
other
mm-hmm.
thing is, the constant iteration and learning. So we're learning new tools, new technology, new software. The way we evaluate and measure sales performance in terms of CRM and functionality and data and analytics. Um, and the other thing is the way companies make decisions is more complex. More people touch a business decision.
Right,
More people influence a business decision. There's more competition. So all of
right.
these sort of competing and influencing factors just it makes the job, if harder is the right word, it's changed the job. Maybe that's a better way
Right.
to say it. And
Mm-hmm,
today,
mm-hmm.
the job really requires a deep level of expertise, not only in your company and your product, but in
Of
your
course.
category, and particularly in the customer universe. So the best salespeople are able to put themselves in a position where they build trust through expertise and a demonstrated
Yeah.
track record of success, but they're learning about their client. I always say selling is
Right.
asking, not telling. It's listening, not talking. What you really want to be able to do is partner with the customer and invite them into co-creating solutions. And so to me, that's the best way to approach partnerships. And with
Mm-hmm.
respect to Impact 11, yeah, it's been a fun journey. I mean, I'm real passionate about my partners and the business and the community that we've created. And I think we have an
Mm-hmm.
incredible, unique value proposition. And it's funny, I was just on a community call with Impact 11 right before we got on, and you see the kinds
Uh-huh.
of people that we're supporting and that are coming together to support each other. And that's why community is a word gets used a lot, but we have an incredible community of brand evangelists, and it's easy to grow a business when the
Yep.
customers do a lot of the selling for you. When they tell other people and
Right.
they
Wow.
refer you and they
Of course.
bring in friends, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so one piece of advice I have, we talk about it in the book, is turn your customers into evangelists. Create a community of passionate, loyal users. Serve
Right.
them, over
Right.
deliver, and those early customers will get committed to helping you grow. You'll all grow together, and so we've been fortunate to see some of that happening inside Impact 11.
Wow. And we can observe that on the individual level as well. And I bet that is one of the things that you teach and how you impact lives, right? Because you're showing, you're going beyond, you're over delivering, and you're creating these referrals. I mean, referrals are the easiest source of business, like the customers are doing the selling for you. And, people just love referring people who've taken care of them. And that's just a great sign of how much impact you have made in their lives. Ryan, I want to talk a little bit about your keynote career and your experience as a keynote speaker. You're also a strategic advisor. You've inspired transformation through your keynotes, globally. Um, what are some common? This is, I think, a very interesting more question for me. It's like, what are some common challenges or hesitance hesitancy when it comes to teaching individuals and companies about embracing human-centered growth? Because again, I see this as a new concept. It's too deep of a concept when it comes to companies and corporations. Going into like teaching these kind of strategies, how do you help individuals and companies and corporations overcome this hesitancy to embracing human-centered growth and achieve sustainable success?
Yeah, I mean, to overcome any type of resistance to change, I think you have to is a process, and so I think
Right.
you have to get people bought into the idea, or believing in the idea that
Hmm.
evolving the way we lead or the way we serve our customers is critical, and there's good evidence to support why human-centered organizations or human-centered leadership is the right path. I mean, human-centered organizations
Right.
outperform traditional organizations. They
Hmm.
outperform the S&P. They get ideas to the marketplace 2 times faster, and they create better
Right.
experiences, better human experiences for all
Hmm.
stakeholders, for their employees, for their customers, for their investors. Is there resistance? Sure.
Of
One of the
course.
one of the pieces of resistance is that, oh, this is soft. It's not about performance and technology, and so you have to sort of dispel that myth. That's not true at all. And then the
Hmm.
second
Hmm.
is, I think a lot of leaders. Well, I'm already doing that, and there's a lot of evidence actually that we
Right.
aren't doing a very good job of that. And I'll point to things like, hey, quiet quitting or the Great Resignation, or the fact that today, right now, while we're talking, employees are more dissatisfied with their work experience than they were at the height of the pandemic. So we're not getting better. We're not getting worse. I often like to say that the way we're working isn't working, and we're certainly not capturing all of the potential inside our
Right.
teams and people
Hmm.
and in our enterprises. So
Hmm.
that's reality. And I think another challenge is just our incentive structures. I think part of being a human centered leader also means having a longer range view of the business
Right.
and the journey that we're on, and sort of putting people at the center of that. And what's in vogue right now is making short-term decisions to get short-term results. And you see a lot of that around us, and
Huh.
and I understand why that's the case, but I think if you want to create sustainable success, that
Of
the
course.
approach we outline in the book, and we give examples too. It's not an idea that's not rooted or supported by a foundation of evidence, that
Hmm.
ultimately it's a better approach.
Right. And again, I love that you mentioned empathy once again, because when people say it's soft, actually, I would even go as far as saying like empathy is one of the hardest things. True, deep empathy is harder than just, surface level, experience and service value. And like empathy is really hard. I think in fact, we're moving away from true empathy because of the pace of the lives that we live in today. Ryan, you were mentioned by Meetings and Conventions magazine and recognized as one, and I quote, one of the best keynote speakers seen or heard. And I love that last bit part because it says seen or heard, and these are the exact words that you say when you want to make impact in people's lives. People want to be seen, people want to be heard, and how you do that through your keynotes is quite remarkable. Um, Talk to us a little bit
Thank
now
you.
about the future. All right, you're welcome. You're welcome, Ryan. I mean, this is your experience. Has been great. You've been sharing us such pivotal, golden nuggets that we can do. I want to talk a bit about the future, Ryan, and this is a bit
Great.
more, the future for individuals, entrepreneurs, our audience and listeners, but more future aspirations for Ryan Esses. What is the future look like for Ryan Esses? How do you want to continue impacting individuals and companies? And what experience from your career journey could you share our audience today to shape their perspective on human centered growth and leadership?
It's a great Yeah, it's a great question. So first off, I'm very optimistic about the future. I just celebrated a
Mhm.
birthday, and even as I get older, I still believe that my best days and
Mhm.
my best work is ahead of me and not behind me. I think it's an
Wow. Wow.
extraordinary time to be alive. We have a lot of challenges, and
Mhm.
not only in business but in the world, and a lot of uncertainty, an uncertain economic
Mhm.
environment, certainly here in North America.
Yes. Of course.
We're in an election year, and that feels awkward. And I think there's a lot of
Hmm. Hmm.
geopolitical unrest around the world. We have big problems, but I think we've never
Hmm.
been better positioned to solve them. And I'm excited about the changes
That's true.
and the pace of change. And it feels relentless, but man, what a curious, amazing time. I mean, to think I just launched a new website and
Yes,
anybody in the world can go on and ask me a question, and I don't have to be there. You have a question about sales or leadership or
that's
value
true.
or price or empathy, just go ask. And,
Hmm.
Ryan GPT, like
Hmm.
and you can imagine where we're going to be in 5 years. But you asked me
Yes.
something that I learned in my career, and I think I've had sort of two seasons of my career. There's this beautiful book that I
Wow.
read that had a lot of impact on me called "The Second Mountain" by David Brooks. And when I identify with it because I think it's the two chapters of my career. And my the reality is, when I started my career, I was so focused on success and what that looked like, climbing the ladder and being a great salesperson and commissions and making money. And it was really all about me. And I wanted to build this thing. And then, you get older in life and life happens. And I had a sort of a chip on my shoulder. I think I had something to prove. And I showed up with that energy. I was
Right.
aggressive and competitive, and I wanted to win at all
Uh-huh.
costs. And there was a lot of proving. And even when I got into speaking, I wanted to be great and get standing ovations and win
Hmm.
deals. And
Hmm.
a lot of that was about me and about, hey, did the audience love me and how great I was. And I sort of attached my identity to my outcomes. And then you get older in
Right.
life, or you experience some setbacks. You get a health scare, significant relationship ends, you lose a parent, or you go through a crisis. And I sort of realized that the future for me, I've proven myself and I'm done sort of doing that. The future for me is really evolving from having something to prove to something to give. And I think if we could show up
Wow.
in that way as an act of
Wow.
service, and you recognize it's not about me. And that's a big part of why we started Impact
Hmm.
11. I didn't want to go on my next
Hmm.
10 or 15-year journey alone. I wanted to do it with people I loved and build a community
Right.
and where we could co-create and
Beautiful.
help each other. And so, the
Hmm.
work that I do in community or in sales and leadership, it just isn't about me anymore. It's about what I have to give, whether that's serving an
Right.
audience with a keynote or building community and Impact 11 or leading my own team. It's the evolution of something to prove to something to give. And I wish I would have understood that earlier in my career, but I'm glad
Right.
I understand it now. So you asked me for sort of an idea that from my whole career experience, that's one that I think hits pretty close to home. And it's actually reflected in the book we wrote for sure.
And it does reflect in the way you've lived, the way you talk about your life, the way you talk about your experience, the way you talk about your company, and the way you talk about your mission. And I was going to add to that when you said like it's not about proving anymore, and I wanted to add like improve, don't prove, but yours is even better because it's about giving now. It's like about giving back value. And again, Ryan, these are all great. These are all very lovely, and I'm just really glad. I am learning so much, but I am also certain and guaranteed that our audience and listeners are getting as much value as you have provided us today. Ryan, I want to give you this opportunity to let us know where we can find you, where can we connect with you, where are you most active at, and how do we stay updated? Of course, we have your Ryan GPT to ask on your site, but this is
Yeah.
our chance to ask
Yeah.
you, where can we connect with you?
Yeah. So, the other thing that we do, we publish a newsletter every other week. It's free. So you can just go to the website uh, and register for the newsletter. And then I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So those are two other places.
Mhm.
And I'd love to connect. So I enjoyed the conversation. Hope your audience does too.
All right, fantastic. Ryan, this has been great. I totally enjoyed it as well. our audience and listeners, I invite you guys to check out the websites. Of course, check out ryanesses.com. Check out also, if I'm not mistaken, the book site, which is prepareforimpactbook.com. And again, make sure to get on there, check out everything. And Ryan, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Joshua. Thank you.
Fantastic. And to all our audience and listeners out there, see you on the next one.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.